Okay, Mr. Chairman, we are recording and we are live on YouTube, and it is 7 o'clock, so you're good to go.
Thank you. It looks as if quite a few people are muted though, Sharon.
They'll unmute themselves. That's fine. Everybody knows how to do that, I believe.
Okay, all right. Good evening. Welcome to the Environmental Impact Commission's meeting on Wednesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. It's a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom. All votes will be by roll call. And we'll start off with roll call. Gallo's here. Jeff Harold's here.
I'm here.
Mark Massoud is here. Matt Rose is here.
Here.
We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is old business. Regulated activity 1128 75 Kenosha Avenue. Richie and I went and did on-site. I think it was Monday. Rich, did you have anything to add besides your report?
No, it looks like so. They considered two options, and the selection they made will have the least impact on the wetlands. They're proposing just about 6,000 square feet of mitigation across the street. So that's what we found there.
Anybody have any questions? Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just that we had the site walk the other day. I looked at Richard's screening report. I made my presentation at the last meeting. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has, but I'm satisfied with the screening report as is. I don't think any additional issues came up during our site walk last week.
Correct.
Actually,
Anyone have
not that
any
I don't
questions?
think no issues came up.
If not, I'll take a motion to accept the report as presented.
I'll make that motion to accept the report as presented.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second Mark Massoud.
Motion made and seconded to accept the report of approval for regulated activity 1128 75 Kenosha Avenue. Any remarks?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
For Richard or for Ben. So a permit is issued and it's good, of course, for 5 years. So I understand, and I wasn't at the last meeting, so there's a mitigation plan that's in place. So would the mitigation plan, I'm wondering if we ought to consider putting a time frame on implementation of the mitigation plan as opposed to leaving it for 5 years, which is an awful long time.
I can answer that, Mark.
Go ahead, Ben.
Part of the mitigation, Mark, we're also doing floodplain mitigation. So the plan with this project, and Chief O'Mast is here, he could jump in too, is for construction to happen. If it gets, we're in front of EIC now, but we're also in front of planning. So if we get approved in EIC and then subsequently in planning, a floodplain permit will need to be issued, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't get a CO until the conditions of the floodplain permit are met. So you guys could do whatever you want as far as timing, but the intent is to do everything at the same time, to construct the site, which does require filling the floodplain, because as you know, that whole neighborhood is in the floodplain, and then do the mitigation across the street at the same time. It's actually part of the land use application to planning as well, Mark. But however you want to condition it, it is the intent to do the mitigation concurrently with the construction of Engine 26.
Okay.
I'll let Chief O'Masta pipe in as to the intended schedule, if he doesn't mind. He's here tonight.
Chief?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, everybody.
Hey, Mark.
We do have funding now through the SNAP bond 2020. Once we get approvals, we're ready to bid in January. And we're hoping for a spring construction. So we're on a pretty aggressive schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Mark?
So, okay, so if I understand correctly, the floodplain, the mitigation will be part of the floodplain permit, and the floodplain permit is tied to the site plan? Ben, I'm
Yes.
sorry, is that what, is that how
Yeah.
it's working?
Absolutely correct, Mark. Yes, it'll be the site plan approval comes first, and then the floodplain is usually issued tied to that site plan. When the project is over, as with any project like this, the zoning will require me to sign off on the grading and drainage, and that the floodplain volumes were per plan. And lately, they've also been making Abigail and any landscape architect sign off on the plantings as well, that they were put in per the plan, the right numbers, the right species, et cetera. So the intent is to do it all at the same time. And as Chief said, this year.
Right. Okay, well, my concern was that a mitigation plan could, that a developmental plan could take place rather quickly, and I would expect that, but that a mitigation plan could be, delayed for some reason. But I'm hearing that it's part and parcel of the developmental plan. So I suppose I'm okay with that. Satisfies my concern.
Okay, thank you.
All said, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, roll call. Jeff Harold,
Aye.
Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
and Bernie Gallows and I. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. And Abigail.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You
Thank
too.
you, Commissioner.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
See you next year.
Okay. Have a nice Christmas, huh?
Yes, you too.
Thank you. You too.
Next item on the agenda. Regulated activity 1129 Encompass Health. Attorney Ward Mizuko. Ward, did you want to start this or?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Ward Mizuko, I'm a lawyer here in Danbury, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Encompass Health, which, as some of you may know, is the new name for a well-known company, Health South, which maintains hospital facilities, in particular rehabilitation hospital facilities throughout the country. And their proposal is to develop a facility here in Danbury up in the reserve. And if I may share my screen with the chair's permission, I can give you a little introduction and then turn it over to our engineer to provide some further detail.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you. I hope everybody can see this okay. So this is an aerial view of the reserve. And of course, you see I-84 over here, Old Ridgeberry Road. Looks like, yeah, that's Old Ridgeberry there. And then the road into the reserve here. This would be the obviously all the Toll Brothers condominiums. And the north entrance to the summit, the former Union Carbide building, is over here. And so this site, consisting of 13.8 acres, is nestled right in the at the intersection here toward the gateway to the summit complex. Is everyone familiar with where we're located? This whole complex being, of course, the reserve. Okay. So this project narrative was part of the initial application, so it may already be familiar to you. So I'll kind of go through it quickly. The current owner of the property is the Berkeley Insurance Company, which had received partial approvals and was contemplating a 100,000 square foot office building. But the current proposal is to build a rehabilitation hospital, which will be up to 100,000 square feet. The background of the company is to offer post-acute care to patients that have suffered from an acute event such as a stroke, heart attack, neurological event, etc. Most of the people who would come to this facility would have been discharged from an acute care hospital such as Danbury Hospital. And they offer physical rehabilitation, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and so forth. But I would stress that this is not a place for drug, alcohol, or mental health rehabilitation. In terms of the local approvals, the PND zone is rather broad, but with the guidance of the planning director, we sought specific approval from the zoning commission to add a use within the PND specifically, and that's the physical medical facility inpatient, which you see right here. I've already kind of summarized it, but it defines exactly what Encompass proposes to do, and the zoning commission saw fit to approve it, indicating that they thought this was a good use for that community. This being a healthcare facility, it does need approval from the Department of Public Health, which is underway. And with that background, we're here tonight because of the wetlands implications. I want to emphasize that there's no proposal to conduct any activity here within the wetlands. To the contrary, we're only conducting activities in the upland review area, which, as you know, means that the commission's analysis is whether we are likely to impact or affect wetlands or watercourses. And the experts that I have with me tonight, I think, will persuade you that indeed there is no likely impact or effect on wetlands or watercourses. The site work will consist of drainage, retention, walls, and so forth. And although the building may be built in phases, the infrastructure will be built all at one time to minimize the impact on wetlands. This is a conceptual plan showing what Berkeley Insurance was thinking of some years back on the same parcel. And I also want to introduce the design professionals and environmental experts led by Eric Lindquist of Ty and Bond. I'm introducing their resumes so that you can see that they are all experts in their field. Any questions on what I've mentioned so far?
Anybody?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ward, I presume that the original permit issued by the Inland Wetlands Agency has expired?
For the office building, you mean?
Correct.
I don't think they went as far as to obtain a permit. Eric would probably know better than I would, but I think they were just developing a conceptual plan, and I think they got the zoning commission to amend the master plan to allow the building, but I don't think they followed through with all their approvals. But had they gotten the wetlands approval, it probably would have expired.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
Nope.
Who's your next speaker, Ward?
Yes, sir. That would be Eric Lindquist, the project engineer. So Eric, where are you?
I'm right here. Good evening. For the record, my name is Eric Lindquist. I am a senior project manager at Ty and Bond and a licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. With me tonight, I have Matt Popp, who is the landscape architect, who will be available for questions if there are any. And I also have Rick Canavan with Ty and Bond, who is a principal environmental scientist and was responsible for the wetland flagging and can answer any questions on functions and values, project impacts, and things of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so that I can kind of just give you a brief overview of the project and what we're trying to do here and how we're going to be avoiding the wetlands and our non-impacts, I should say, on them. So moving forward, this is the project survey. As you can see, the wetlands are here with this dot hatch and are flagged right around here and go along the side. This is the primary wetland source for the site. If you're familiar, there's a large culvert under the road here. So everything from the area between us and phase 4, I think it's 4C over here, gathers through this area and kind of comes down here through this water course and then goes under the culvert. This is the regulated area right here, which we are impacting, which is why we're in front of you tonight. And this line kind of circles the site here, which leaves us our development pad up in this area. Here's the overall site plan, kind of giving you a bird's eye view of what we're proposing. Our proximity to the wetlands, and you can see here the regulated area line that goes through the eastern portion of our site. This is a little bit closer up view, gives you a little bit more detail on what we're trying to do here. Our access, like I said, will be off, or I haven't said, will be off Reserve Road. This will allow us to circle the site. We'll have a drop off here. Don't want to go into too much detail. If you guys want me to, I can, but I just kind of want to give a broad overview of what's going on here with accessible access and the various elements around here. The biggest thing to note for you guys is the wall back here. And when I get to the grading plan, you'll see it a little better, but this wall is the kind of the limit of our disturbance. There will obviously be during construction, some disturbance further past it for trucks and things to kind of construct the wall and do some clearing. But once this is established and the wall is in place, this will form a very nice vegetative and animal buffer between us and the wetlands. If you have questions on that, like I said, Rick Canavan is on the phone and he can address that to an extent as well. This right here, this is more for site plan, so I don't have to go through this. This is just the open space plan, so I can just skip past that. Layout plan, further detailed, just dimensions and things of that nature. Right here is the grading plan. So like I said, if I get in here and I can view in here, you'll see this wall can be fairly significant at places. We have over here, we have about a 14-foot wall. This is the highest point over here, but we still maintain separation between the closest point of the wetlands and our wall. So there's still access through here to not disturb the wetlands, to get through here, construct the wall, build it up, and allow us to fill in this area and construct what we're trying to do out here. The next page, let me zoom out a little bit. So this is the drainage plan, and it's a very busy plan, so I apologize for that. But basically, drainage is going to be collected throughout the sites on both sides and funneled around to a large underground infiltration system. We did some perk tests out there and did some soil investigations, and this will sit right in this area above well above the water table. I don't think we encountered water out there above the rock, so it'll perk fairly well, and that's been accounted for in our calculations. We discharge this through a level spreader over here. The level spreader will have a concrete curb on it, so it allows an even distribution of flow to sheet flow instead of a point discharge, which will be better for diffusing the water down the hillside. That water will join into kind of an existing swale that's over here now and then feed the wetlands. So the wetlands will continue to be fed with this runoff water. We also have on the far side a smaller watershed area that'll be taking runoff from the parking lot and the driveway entrance. This will discharge here. Since it is a smaller flow, I didn't see an issue with point discharging it. It's also an existing swale, which is a source of almost like a point discharge now. So that'll be feeding the wetlands from this side. So we have two locations where the wetlands will be fed by runoff from the site. And this system has been sized for 1-inch water quality volume per state deep requirements. And we've ensured, as a control point of the culvert underneath the roadway here, we've ensured that there is no increase in peak flows for any of the storm events. So that's all been addressed by the storm drainage system for the project. As we move forward, this is the utility plan. Don't really need to go into much information on this either, but we're fed off of Reserve Road for all our utilities. When we get into CDs and refine these plans a little bit further, we'll start having further discussions with utility companies and things of that nature about servicing the site and providing loads and all of that. Lastly, and probably more important for you guys, is the erosion control plans. As you can see, I did a two-phase plan. This is kind of to clear the site and to allow for land disturbance to facilitate construction of the building and the walls. So we're going to go out there and clear and kind of make our initial cuts along here to provide an area for the building pad. And we're going to start to fill out on these sides for where the wall will eventually go. You know, as this develops further, we may tweak it a little bit, but I just wanted to show that we will have protective barriers along the entire wetlands, the silt fence, hay bale row, both. We'll have controls for this, I forget the term for it, but the water quality sumps that we'll have out in the site. Sediment basins, there you go. So we'll have two of those out here. Those will have controls and protections in them. We'll have a sump with a crushed stone perimeter around it and a filter fabric over a riser pipe that'll allow us to drain the area. So we've set it up into two zones here that'll allow us to really drain the area and control sediment deposition from the site. And we'll construct the discharges for each of these two sides right off the bat so that those can be maintained throughout the entire course of construction. As we finalize the plan, this is just kind of like the last phase of the erosion control, which just shows the final build out with the protections we'll have around the proposed drainage structures, around the wall construction. This may push back a little bit, like I said before, for constructing this wall, make it a little closer to the wetlands there to allow a little bit more room to get in there and do some work. But by and large, that's what we're planning on doing for the proposed phase. And then lastly, this is the planting plan. Like I said, Matt Pop is on the phone. He can go over this if need be. But this is just showing the types of plantings that we're going to have near and close to the wetlands as well as throughout the site. I think this might just be a redundant sheet here. Yeah, that's just the end of it. So that is the limit of my presentation, but I'll pass it back over to Ward and he can continue to go from here.
Well, thank you, Eric. That I think provides the essential overview that we wanted to get before the commission. As Eric said, he and I are available for questions, as well as the landscape architect, Matt Pop, and our soils specialist who conducted the delineation. We think it's a pretty simple, straightforward project, but we're happy to address any concerns or questions that commissioners may have.
Anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mark.
Sure. I would like to hear of the functions and values that were found of that particular wetland, number one. Number two, the drainage to the front near Reserve Road. I'd like to hear a little bit more about, I think I heard that in a permanent basis, that would be a point discharge in the upland review area. It didn't look to me like there was any particular treatment proposed. So I'm a little bit, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the impervious area that drains there on a permanent basis. And kind of similarly for the sediment and erosion controls, it looked like there was a sediment basin with probably an overflow drain in that same area. I'd like to hear a little bit more about controlling and releasing runoff from accumulated sediment-laden water during construction.
Yeah, I'll address your second 2 points, and then I'll pass it over to Rick, who can go over the wetlands functions and values. So I will go ahead and share my screen again so I can speak a little bit clearer on this. But I will zoom in here so you can get a little better view of what we're talking about. So as you can see from this, this right here is a water quality structure. It's like a storm scepter inlet type style water quality structure. This is taking runoff. There's a high point somewhere around here. So this whole area and the driveway up to this point, as well as the parking area from right around here down, is draining to this area. So you have an impervious area. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can get them to you. But any impervious area is not there now because it's all wooded. But this is an area that goes to both this inlet structure and to this catch basin. So we're treating it because it's a separate watershed. We wanted to treat it with a structure We didn't, based on our drainage analysis, we oversized the system on the eastern side of the site to accommodate any increase in runoff. But this area, if you look at the existing contouring, it's a fairly significant area that actually drains over here. We're actually reducing the amount of watershed that's going to that side, but we're increasing the impervious runoff. So the increase, I'd have to look at the watershed. I'd have to go into the engineering report and find that for you. I'm not sure what the change in runoff in this side is, but I don't think it's anything fairly significant. But what we've done to mitigate some of the flows that do come down here, as you can see, there is, I don't think the contouring shows it as well as it is out there, but there is a slight swale that goes through here and captures all this sheet flow off of the hillside that comes down here. And you can see it gets really defined over here. The lighter dashed lines are the existing contours, if you can understand them. And you can see the swale kind of still going through here and down to this side. So this becomes an existing swale that channels runoff through here during rain events. So we're just meeting into that. We're providing a riprap energy dissipator at the end of this pipe. So when flow does come out this pipe, and we kept we can change the slope in the pipe a little bit or do some stuff to mitigate the velocities. But this riprap energy dissipator is designed to, when flows come out, to diffuse them out and to slow them down over the rocks, so that the energy is, reduced and the velocities are reduced, and it mitigates and gets closer to what existing really is out there. So that's what we've done as precautionary measures to account for that. As far as the S&E plan, I assume you're talking about this guy over here. This probably doesn't show it as well as it probably should. That's a probably bad drafting issue right there. We'll probably have to put a temporary structure here and tie this into it. But basically, this is designed to take overland flow for this area, go into this basin. The basin is designed as a sump. And at the far end where that circle donut looking thing is, what that is, it's a perforated riser pipe with crushed stone all around it. That riser pipe is wrapped in filter fabric. So when the water rises up inside the sediment basin, it will go through the stone, through the filter fabric, and into the perforated pipe. So that's designed to keep as much of the sediment in that trap as possible, so that mostly clean water, it's never going to be perfectly clean, but it's designed to get it as clean as possible, will be going into this. If this becomes an issue, we can put the water quality structure in earlier and just clean it out. But I don't think, typically we don't have to do that, and it's not necessary. So we did not show that, but we also have protective erosion controls here to make sure that this area, if it ever ponds up too high, is still maintained in there. So those are the precautions we've set in place to mitigate it. The only reason this is inside the regulated area is because I was trying to maximize the amount of runoff we got into it. If I pulled it back further and further, I'm getting less area and more of it's getting untreated and going up against these, erosion controls out in the site over here. So my goal was to capture more inside the sediment basin as possible to minimize the amount of potential for runoff going that's sediment laden into the wetlands. So you can see during construction, we also have this hay bale check dam here that'll slow flows as well as mitigate the flow of any sediment that may get past this system. So as it goes in here, it's going to back up against the check dam. We could add another one to it actually. So what that does is the water goes into the hay bales and ponds up, and the clean water kind of gets filtered through the hay bales and goes through them. And we do another one to give tertiary cleaning on top of that. So those are the measures we put in place. And I hope that addresses your question. And if it does, I'll pass it over to Rick Candyman, who can go over functions and values.
If we could stick with this just for a minute.
Yep.
On the first point, I think I was a little more concerned about long-term, maybe some infiltration or vegetative means that could provide some additional stormwater renovation qualities in addition to those hard structures that you're proposing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I wasn't thinking about the volume of runoff, but that is a good point as well. And to the second, and it may be just having a backup plan or additional erosion control measures. I've inspected way too many of those types of basins during construction, and they are very prone to, while the intentions are good, they're very prone and they can be very high maintenance during construction. So maybe the final plan, maybe we could discuss some alternative or, yeah, probably alternative or optional erosion control measures to handle sediment runoff when it does occur.
Okay. I mean, I could have Matt speak to potentially adding maybe some tall grasses. I'm going to go way past my pay grade here and talking about vegetation that we could do over here, but I could throw it over to Matt to talk about ways of enhancing the discharge location to provide other levels of quality for vegetative removal and things of that nature. It is a steep slope, so it's going to be, I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to be a great source of renovation, but it's additional and something we could do because this is a fairly significant, I mean, not significant, but it's a decent slope over here. Usually vegetative systems, you want to have more flat. So there's time for things to mitigate out and go into the plant roots and things of that nature. Other than that, this is largely taking parked area, pavement areas and curved areas. So I'm not sure, we don't have a way to get really much use in the flatter areas up here. But we can try and look at it, but I'm skeptical of getting too much in that regards, but we can definitely look at the discharge and doing some stuff over here. We have area that's outside the wetlands that we can definitely enhance and do something to provide some of that quality as well. In terms of the erosion control plan, it's looking like, I mean, the level of perk rates we got out there, I'm optimistic that these things will drain out fairly quickly. I find these things become a nightmare when they're put in soils that don't drain well, because then it doesn't do anything. But if we can get some decent infiltration out there and we can keep them maintained and make sure the contractors are moving sediment on a regular basis as it accumulates, I'm not too worried about these things becoming a nightmare. The area is fairly, I mean, it's a decent sized area, but this is going to be an evolving plan. Eventually this is going to be filled up pretty quickly because once the clearing's done, they're going to want to get this wall started. And then this thing's going to be reconstructed all the time because we're going to constantly keep raising grade up. So this thing can't stay at this bottom area for too long. The building's up at 703 or something like that. So we're not gonna be able to keep this down at 696 forever. It's gonna have to keep moving up as we build the wall. So hopefully that constant reconstruction and constant movement of it will allow additional means for repairing and replacing that.
So how much open area would there be at the maximum during construction?
You mean the area going to this basin?
For total site disturbance at any one time during construction activities?
I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 acres. I think that's roughly where we are. So there's probably like 2 acres or so, not even going to this guy, and probably around 2 going to this guy. I forget, but there's there's pieces around the edges and stuff that aren't getting captured with the sediment traps, so let's be captured by our perimeter controls. But I think that's the number. I'm not sure if we have a disturbed area on one of these plans. I thought we did. I know it's in the report and I can find it for you, but I thought we were in the neighborhood of 7 acres. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm happy to keep going, but that's to me that's a fairly good size open area of disturbance at any one time. So you mentioned taking a look at some options, and I'd be happy to have you explore those between now and the next meeting.
Okay, and I can pass it over to Matt now, who can go over functions and values. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. I apologize.
Yeah, that's all right. So for the record, Rick Hanavan, I'm a registered soil science professional wetland scientist. The functions and values. So if you're familiar with the core highway methodology, there's 13 different functions and values that they have you review when you do this functional assessment based on the conditions at the site. The principal functions we have for the wetland are groundwater recharge and discharge, flood flow alteration, and wildlife habitat. And then not at the principal level, but present would be nutrient removal, transformation, and sediment toxicant retention. So those, I can go through how much you want to go through, but basically like the wetland is, important hydrologically in the area. So if both groundwater recharge and discharge, you're seeing the groundwater coming out at the surface. You've got a stream through the wetland, so that's both an area where groundwater is coming out from the adjacent uplands, and also at other times can be infiltrating as the wetland in that, water comes into the wetland, and then the wetland is able to allow water to recharge into the groundwater. Similarly, a wider, flatter area that wetland is adjacent to a stream channel does allow for flood flow alteration if the stream in there comes up out of its bank. If there's a peak storm event, then that allows for storage and reduces the peak before the water is flowing further path, through the culvert and then downstream. Those are hopefully pretty straightforward functions. Wildlife habitat as well. The area's forested. It's got a red maple dominant swamp. There's a decent level of herbaceous cover as well. So there's some structure to the habitat. It is also, it's in there's development, there's invasive species, because, this is not atypical of wetlands in Connecticut, but, this wetland does provide habitat. It connects to wetlands to the south. The sediment, intoxicant retention, and nutrient removal are also sort of a function of the fact that it's flat and has ability to have some retention time for water that's flowing through it, so that allows sediment to accumulate. Sediment can also include toxicants or nutrients. There's not a huge load to this area, so those are not principal functions, because basically limited by the amount of material that's moving in here, considering the upstream wetland is also well developed as a natural wetland, not as a human development. So those are the functions. I could talk about other functions and values that are not included. For instance, it's not endangered species habitat. There's not, we didn't include visual aesthetics. Certainly it'd still be nice to have that forested area down below the facility for people who are in the area, but it's not, otherwise notably visually, aesthetically unique. So that's the analysis of the function values based on the highway methodology from the Army Corps.
Thank you. Could you just characterize the upstream hydrologic connection with adjacent wetlands? Is there a roadway dissecting the two?
I'm trying to get this open. There's the gas line right of way, and then so the wetland, if it's flowing under Reserve Road, it continues just through the gas line offsite to the south. So it's there is a hydraulic, the wetland, if you have the plan, it continues there's a connection to the south, just off the parcel. The wetland continues, and then to the north through the culvert that was mentioned under, if that's Reserve Road. If it's not, I apologize, but that was noted earlier as well. So it's, if depending on where you're going with that, it certainly would appear to be a waters of the U.S. as well. Not that it's a Connecticut wetlands issue, but there's a hydrologic connection through the site to wetlands, both up watershed and down watershed.
Okay, thank you. One last question. Did you characterize, or somebody characterize the nature of the upland soils? Do you know the characteristics of the upland soils in the development area?
They're mapped as Charlton Chatfield, and I have it open. it transitions from Woodbridge and then Charlton Chatfield as the dominant upland soils. And, Eric was talking earlier, we did also do geotechnical work out there, and they were doing test bits or borings to be looking at the groundwater level for the development as well. So those were consistent with the soil survey.
And they are included in the appendix of the engineering report if you want to look further in detail at where they are located and where on the sites.
Sure, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Mark?
I think I'm good for now.
Okay, anyone else? If not, a motion to table is in order so that staff can look at this further.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded to table regular activity 1129 to our next regular scheduled meeting, which is January 13th, 2021. All right. Jeff Harold, yes or no?
Yes.
Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very
You
much.
might want to do it on site, Ward, all right?
Yes, absolutely. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Do we need to make any arrangements for you in any way? Do you need, you'll just go and view the site as it is. You don't need us to make any preparations, I take it.
Yeah, I'll let you know in advance.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Hey, everybody.
Bye-bye. Next item on the agenda. Accepting the meeting calendar for 2021. I assume everybody reviewed it. See any errors or anything? I don't think so with Mary. She's good. Anybody have any questions, remarks? We need to approve this or disapprove it.
I make a motion, we approve the calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the calendar as presented. Remarks from anyone? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Jeff Harold,
Yes.
Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
and I'm a yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is elections. Matt, you'll have to do the first one. Okay? For chairman.
Matt, you got to unmute yourself.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to have Bernie Gallo as our chairman. Unless somebody else would like to be chairman, let us know. Anybody else? Mark?
No, sir, I will not
Okay.
take that thankless job.
Okay.
Happy to have Bernie do that.
We
Give a
need,
second.
I'll second that motion.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Bernie.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone. You guys give me
You're
a lot of
welcome. Thanks
a
for
lot of
doing
help
it.
throughout the year. You support me and I really appreciate it. I enjoy this, enjoy it very much. I like the on-site inspections and we'll keep you posted as we go along. Next position open is the vice chair. Matt has told me he would like to remain as the vice chair. If no one else is interested, would someone please make a motion?
I'll make a motion to elect Matt Rose as vice chair.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? I don't see any. Okay, we'll go with a roll call vote. Jeff Harold,
Aye.
Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt, you gonna vote for yourself?
Aye.
I'm a aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is secretary. Right now, it's Mark Massoud. He would like to retain that position. Is there anyone else interested in being secretary? If not, I could use a motion to nominate.
I'll nominate Mark for secretary.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to nominate Mark as secretary. Anyone else? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Finding none, I'm going to do the roll call vote. Jeff Harold,
Yes.
Mark Massoud,
Aye.
yeah. Matt Rose,
Aye.
Bernie Gallo's a yes. All our officers are in place. Everything's fine. We're just having a wonderful time. Is there anything else you want to come before our committee? Anybody has anything? No. Next item is adjournment. Anybody want to adjourn?
Yeah, let's stay for a while.
Let's stay for another couple of weeks.
I'm sorry that we can't have our annual holiday get together. It's always a nice time, but as I guess with everything else, we'll just postpone and look forward to a better 2021.
We can have a Google cocktail hour.
There we go. We could do that.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn at 7:47. Roll call vote. Jeff Harold,
Aye.
Mark Massoud,
Aye.
Matt Rose.
Aye.
Aye.